So today I have the pleasure of speaking with Andy Scaysbrook, who has been shooting professionally for 4 decades. He has worked on international advertising campaigns for organisations such as BMI, Boots and Weller, and shot PR campaigns for brands such as the BBC, John Lewis and Sony. His work has also been featured in publications including National Geographic, The Times, The Observer, The Guardian and many more. So let's jump in. Andy, welcome and thank you for being here today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
So, Andy, it would be amazing to hear how you first got into photography. How was it that 4 decades ago you decided on photography as a career?
My photography always ran in our family, to be honest. My father, who was a merchant seaman, bought a camera and recorded his journeys around when he was young. My uncle as well, his twin brother, was also a keen photographer. The very first photograph that I ever took was of the back of the Mexico 1970 World Cup annual back in the day, which had a glorious picture of the World Cup, the Jules Rimet trophy on the back, and set against this beautiful red velvet. And I thought I wanted that picture so badly that Dad said, well, take a picture of it with your own camera. So we got out the traditional box brownie and I did exactly that. And the picture was truly dreadful. There was a photo annual set against my dad's rockery in his garden, and I was stood about 10 feet back. So
right.
It was kind of my first lesson in composition as well. So photography's always been around, really, within the family. My brother's also a keen photographer, not professional, but he's a good amateur photographer. So yeah, and then really it was something that I really wanted to pursue, but opportunities were as they are now. It's probably a little bit easier, to be honest. Now there are more opportunities for photographers, but then it was very much a closed shop, as I was told by my then careers teacher.
Yes, because you shared a really fascinating post on LinkedIn, which actually has triggered me contacting you and asking you to be interviewed today. And you were saying about your journey and how at school you were very much told, oh, don't bother with photography, do something far more, I don't know what the word was, meaningful or something more lucrative, perhaps, was the point. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, we were in with my careers teacher at the time, and he was asking around the class, saying what did we want to do when we left school, and a couple of days beforehand I'd seen a photographer working at the side of the road in this big tripod and this Hasselblad setup, and I was like, I would really like to do that. And so when it came around to my turn, I said that I wanted to be a photographer, and he literally laughed at me. He told me that it was a niche career, and that I should try and that I was heading towards engineering, and he said that photography was a fanciful career. But he literally laughed at me, and I thought, oh, okay, So he said you'd end up in engineering, because I was from the Midlands, obviously Coventry area, and he was right. I did end up in engineering, but I never let go of the ambition or the desire to seek what it would be to actually be a professional photographer.
Well done to you for making it happen, and 2 fingers up to that guy, whoever he
Yeah,
was.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I won't name check him.
No, but you proved him wrong, so that's quite satisfying, isn't it? Okay, so I presume you started working more locally to where you live. You mentioned you lived in Coventry in the Midlands there, and we just before we started recording spoke about the fact that I'm also from the Midlands, so we're just down the road from each other, perhaps in our childhood days, which is funny. But yes, Coventry Football Club formed a big part of your photography career at the very start. So can you tell us about that and how it came about and where that took you, really?
Absolutely. I've been a Coventry City fan with my father and my grandfather for many years. We were season ticket holders, and I snuck a camera into a game and sat on the front row of the terrace and shot a load of pictures. I thought I'd chance my arm with the club, and I wrote to the club and I said, could I possibly come along and take some pictures one day, and da 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 da. And to my complete surprise, they said, why don't you come along and have a chat? So I duly did, and I met the then commercial manager, was a guy called George Curtis, who was an incredible man, a huge beast of a man and a real gentleman. And he asked me and said, we'll give you a press pass so you can sit on the side of the pitch, on the proviso that you give us some action pictures for the programme. Well, at this point, I nearly fallen off my seat because I
Yeah, I bet.
couldn't believe that I had such an offer. So Julie, I did, and that started my career. So I worked for the club for 2.5 years, producing, learning a lot from the Fleet Street photographers that were sat next to me and the local agency guys, and I learned about contacts and I learned about how the industry worked. And above all, the hardest thing was I'd gone from the terraces to the side of the pitch. And the side of
Right.
the pitch requires a very professional attitude. You're not a supporter anymore. So I'd be kind of following the action, then I'd take the camera away and look to see whether we'd scored or not. So
Yeah.
I had a lot to learn, but learn I did. And with a lot of help from photographers around me who could see that I was keen, and they were very open and encouraged me, and it was fantastic. It was a fantastic learning curve into the industry, and it gave me an idea that from that moment on, I wanted to work in editorial and press photography.
Great. And so, I mean, that sounds amazing. And what a way in. I mean, gosh. And so the fact that you could watch your home team as well, well, whilst you're working as a bonus, I'm imagining.
Oh, they even paid me. It was incredible.
Yeah. So obviously, yeah, then you developed a love for this. And how in those early days did you market yourself then as a photographer, or was it all just down to contacts and people you met in those early days? How did it sort of evolve and your marketing evolve over time to kind of get known for what you do?
It was very it was well it, I say it was quite easy really, because the newspaper industry and publishing in general was very much still in its at the top of its game, so to speak, excuse me. And there was a huge outlet, and there were good budgets within editorial departments, which are now sadly long gone. And they were always looking for freelance contributors. So I started working for sending pictures in on spec to like the Kenilworth Weekly News, the Coventry Evening Telegraph. And then eventually people started to say, hey, what are you doing next Tuesday? Can you go along and shoot this for us? So that's what I did, and started to build up from there and started to get some tear sheets. And then in the end, around about 1987, just after we won the FA Cup, I thought, it's not going to get much better here in Coventry. Coventry was in some tough times, as the whole country was in the 80s due to the recession.
Yeah.
And I relocated down to Bournemouth. And then I set about just literally writing to design agencies, to local photographers, to see if I could, come along, do some work experience. But the problem was that the down south, people outside of the editorial market were very closed about their businesses, how they operated. They didn't really want to give away too many sort of kind of insider secrets of whatever.
Trade secrets,
Trade secrets, which there weren't a lot, to be quite honest. But so it was really, really difficult to get started. But I carried on shooting. I got some commissions for local agencies, and really word of mouth, which to this day is still probably the best marketing I get, is having people recommend me and who have worked with me or have worked with me on a campaign or something. So I do like to share information with young photographers and more experienced photographers. So I started doing workshops as well and running workshops as well. So that gives me a great opportunity to answer a lot of people's questions, and I'm completely open about what I do, how I go about it, and how I work really. And I think it's important that photographers do that they should share as much information as they possibly can. Now, in today's climate, obviously with social media, that's a lot easier. But in those days, it was very, very much a closed shop. And if you didn't go to college or to study photography, it was very, very difficult, and it still is.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think what you said there about word of mouth and referrals, I mean, I think that continues to be so powerful. And certainly in the photography communities that I'm involved in, and indeed my own, I hear that photographers, they have to do that. They have to be seen and be visible. And, that's in support then of any other proactive marketing that they might be doing. But certainly getting known in a community or within a certain niche or industry, is so key, isn't it? That face-to-face interaction.
Absolutely, and it also gives you a chance not only to present yourself as a person, but also to present your ideas creatively and as a photographer, and to take in terms of marketing. It's often the case that I will approach somebody with an idea that I think would work for them in terms of their marketing,
Right.
or how they work. So I think it's important. The phone's not just going to ring. It doesn't work that way. You've got to be proactive. You've got to define what it is you do, what it is you offer, and then who are those people that are looking for that service, and then market something. Don't just make yourself visible to them, but go to them with a solution to their problems, or to their needs. And for me, and now that takes time, and you get a lot of knockbacks because people are obviously working with established photographers and creative teams. That's fine. But I kind of get over that, really, of just saying, if you're looking for a new way of approaching what you do, then it would be great to have a chat, because I've got lots of ideas that I'm pretty sure would be interesting to you.
Yeah, very well said. I mean, everything you said there about getting those fundamentals right, about who it is that you're trying to target, and getting known within those communities, all of that is so important. And absolutely, fresh talent is always welcome. Perhaps you may get, like you say, a few knocks and a few no's, but ultimately keep going, I think, is the point. And that's something I'm always trying to reiterate to photographers as well. Like, in the process of pitching to the media, you're going to get far more knockbacks than you're going to get yeses, but you've got to have that persistence and that kind of positive approach and mindset, and not let yourself get downtrodden by those knockbacks and rejections, because it's not personal. It's just that maybe they're not looking right now for a photographer, or and in the media's case, they're not looking to run a story along those lines. But keep going is the point, which is a nice segue actually to sort of your ideal client now. Who is your ideal client, would you say, and how do you market to them, like now into 2024?
It's quite odd, really, because the kind of work that I'm known for probably is photojournalism and editorial work. There simply isn't the market for that anymore as a sustainable business. Most of the publishers, everything's obviously gone online. Print is no longer what it was, and expensive to produce. So what I look to do is I look for businesses, and I look to work with people that still require storytelling. Storytelling has kind of been reinvented recently, and everybody claims to be a storyteller, but
it's a bit of a buzzword right now, isn't it? And has been for a number of years.
It is. Yeah, it's truly awful, because people piggybacking on a title. It's a title doth not a storyteller make, really.
Yeah.
Editorial photographers and photojournalists know how to tell a story. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and an end, and it's the who, what, why, where, when. And that kind of work. There are still companies trying to feed social media the hungry beast that social media is with content. Is everything? Everybody will go to video now. Video is very much the go-to because of algorithms. Photography doesn't get the views or anywhere near what it used to do. So what I'll often do is I look to work. I've just done a shoot with a regular client called the Sailor Society. One of the world's oldest charities, maritime, based in Southampton. And I've shot with them for a good 4 or 5 years of different campaigns on seafarers. And that's really human storytelling. So that's what I love doing. I also shoot a lot of commercial and also video. I've been moving into a lot of video recently because I've simply been asked for it. So I've just recently shot a video for a fundraising campaign for a charity in the West Midlands called Young Minds Matter, which deals with children's mental health and so on and so forth. So I really want to do the work that matters. I'm not interested in doing commercial photography. I'm at the stage of my career where if I'm to continue doing what I do, then I want to do what I want to do, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's the thing that I find most rewarding. Human stories. I love the human condition. I love people. The good, the bad, and the ugly are all of interest to me, and I love their stories, and I love translating that into visual terms as well.
Yeah,
and it is still as powerful as it ever was, if not more so. The single image still stops you. Video is everywhere, and for me that single strong image, and I get this back from my clients as well, where they'll say, oh, that picture we've used that on so many campaigns, that's such a great shot, that really communicates. And it's good that it proves that photography still communicates in the same way as it always did, even though we're in an image heavy,
Yes, there's no
drenched with
shortage of
images every
images, but they
single
still
day.
managed. Yeah, they still managed to cut through. That shows the power of it, isn't it? Mm.
Absolutely. So with that, I mean, I think it is just a case of I try to marry up clients and people that I want to work with. I think that's important. I don't want to work with people that I don't want to work with.
Yeah, been there,
If
done that, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I literally have been there and done it all. With just through 40 years experience, so I've
Yes.
experienced all ends of the game from the top to the bottom. And as I say, I've got choices on what I do going forward professionally. So if I'm to continue down this route, which I am, then it has to be impactful work that makes some difference, makes somebody sit up, tells a story that matters to me. I'm very much into the human condition and fascinated by it. So that's what I do really. I come up with ideas and then I approach people and say, what about this? What do you think? This is what I did
Yeah.
previously. This is how it worked. This is the returns, and break it down for them. And I think you've got to be, you've got to really look at your client, and you've got to really know and understand what they're after, and look at their business, and be analytical and forensic, and look around and see what can I do for them. So that's the way I kind of go around my marketing, and the rest of it really is from word of mouth from people that I've worked for before. And I mean, I had a call the other day which was incredible, from somebody that I worked with 17 years ago, and said, "Oh, you're still on this number?" I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, it's great. Are you still a photographer?" I said, "Yes, I am." Brilliant. That's great news. We want to talk to you about a shoot.
Wow.
Yeah. So keep the same number. I've had mine for
Yeah,
23
don't
years or
change your
something
mobile.
now. Yeah. Don't change your mobile number. You're losing out on clients.
Oh dear. Oh, that's a good story. So I think from what you said there is what's coming through very strongly is the proactivity that you've demonstrated throughout your career to sort of make opportunities happen, and particularly then you were talking about how you identify who you want to work with and then go with ideas. And I think communication of your ideas is presumably key as well, because it's all very well getting in front of them and pitching an idea, but you've got to be an effective communicator in the sense that you've got to sell the vision. And like you say, through examples of past work, presumably you're able to do that pretty well now. But yes, being a great communicator and that proactivity just seems absolutely key from what you're saying.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. You've if you're to be a photographer, a professional photographer, as we all know, in any business, you have to wear many hats. Being a photographer on your own is a very lonely business, and you have to be. It will soon find you out. If you're not up for it, it will destroy you, tear you apart, and you'll be going off and doing something else. You've got to be that marketer. You've got to be ahead of the game. You've got to understand people's needs, and you've got to promote yourself. And as you said earlier, there will be times when you get knockbacks. Nothing to do with your work, nothing personal. It's just not the right fit at the right time. Coming back from after you've spent a lot of time researching an idea and a project, taking it apart, presenting it, then getting a knockback, that takes it out of you. It doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. That is tough, and it's the same for any other business that's pitching for business and they don't get it. And it's not down to price. It's as you said earlier. It's just a case of not the right thing at the right time, and you have to look and say, right, okay, move on to the next. That requires an immense amount of energy to keep going back and keep getting those knockbacks. And it doesn't get any easier, but the simple fact is that if you're out there doing it, then you're visible.
Yeah,
and people will remember you. If somebody had a good experience with me 17 years ago, wants to call up and repeat that experience, then
absolutely.
I mean, it's a long lead time, I must admit. But
a bit too long, but it's better than not coming back at all. No, that's really funny after such a long time. So we talked about, as you say, clients wanting media content as in terms of video content. Are you finding you're creating video content for your own marketing? I mean, I know you've got an Instagram presence, you've got a website, obviously, but are you proactively creating behind the scenes videos? Are you using Instagram Reels? Those kind of features that are available to us now as small business owners. To what extent are you doing your own marketing content creation, and what typically does that look like?
To be quite honest, even though I'm sat here talking to a phone now, it's not something that I do a lot of. I'm not a fan of the whole "oh hi, I'm taking the dog for a walk" approach.
Yeah.
Uh, um, it's kind of, it doesn't fit with everybody. It certainly doesn't fit with myself.
Uh-huh.
Um, for those that are good at it who want to do it, then that's great. I'm a 60-year-old guy. Uh, I don't think there's a limited interest in what I do or how I go about it. So what I tend to do is I make films. I've started making films. Video is very much it's something I've always wanted to do. I wanted to go to film school at some point, but
Right.
life moved on, and I'd hoped, as many photographers did, they move into film eventually at some point. You know, going back to everybody works in film at some point, and so the sort of catch point for me really was drone photography. So I made a film called The Shore. It's a 5-minute film shot entirely along the shore of Bournemouth Beach, really. And I edited it myself, obviously, and set the music. I knew exactly what I was doing. So what I'm trying to do in that sense is to make personal projects that show my creativity and how I think and how I work and how I edit and really trying to set a scene that way, really, because I think it's far more important for me personally for people to look at my work and judge me on my work.
Mm-hmm.
People often say I can talk the hind legs of a donkey, so I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried about meeting people and conversing with people. I love it, but
Yeah.
I'd much rather show off my work than me. And I
Yeah.
know
And
it's
as you
quite
say, through personal projects, you can absolutely do that. And it's something you were passionate about doing in the first place. So,
absolutely, and you retain control with a
mm-hmm.
personal project. You're 100% control, which is essential, really, to you know. I think to any project is having that. You've got to see that vision, yeah, and you've got to relay that vision and show that you can do that, and time again. So, I think it's valid. A lot of photographers show what they're doing and where they're going and what new lens they've bought and everything, and that's fine. But do people want to know that? I think if I was to make content, and I have thought about it, online courses is one of the things I have thought about doing.
Okay.
But again, I much prefer taking people out. I do a lot of work in Cuba and taking photographers out to Cuba.
Oh, wow.
And we do a 10-day trip around Cuba. I've
Fantastic.
been
Like
doing
street photography type.
street
Yeah.
photography, the
Wow.
ballet, into the boxing gyms of Cuba,
How cool.
real into the heart of the nation and its people. And I love doing that. I've led courses in Nepal and Morocco. And other parts of the world, taking people to a location and teaching them firsthand, so they're getting a new sensation of arriving in a country, and it's like that wow moment. And
Mm.
then they've got myself on hand to guide them and say, right, this is what we're doing, this is what we're going to get out of this. And it's a wonderful thing to see 10 people just explode over a 10-day period creatively.
Yeah.
And then at the end, we work towards putting something together. So they've got a project. So they've got Project Cuba, 10 days of Cuba. So they go away with something which they can reference. And then they come back to me as well and they say, oh, I've sent you this. Can you da? So yeah, maybe I'll move into the online world soon. But I mean, really, yeah. I mean, I think it's important to show your own creativity off and control it as much as you can, because when you start working for people, you'll be working to briefs generally, and that's an important skill to be able to work to a brief and to nail that brief.
Yes, and inherently then you're more restricted by what you can do, because
Absolutely.
it's yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, that sounds fascinating. The trips abroad and doing that, that's awesome. But the online course creation aspect is always going to be there for you, whether you do it now or in 5, 10 years time. So that's potentially an option for you if you decide to hang up your camera one day and just go into the coaching and tuition sort of side. Exciting.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's something I love doing, because there are many skills to learning photography, obviously, but it's quite simple. It's quite simple. It's strip away all of this rubbish that you read here, there, that you haven't got to have anything. What you've got to have is commitment and a strong creative ideal. And you can go and make your mistakes. It doesn't matter what lens you've got on the front of your camera or who made your camera. It's not
Mm.
important. It's the mindset and I love nurturing that bit in people, and I love seeing them come alive and they say, "Oh, that's so easy. I didn't know it was that easy." And you're like, "Yeah, it's there are the dark arts are They're not that dark.
Not when someone shows you how, anyway.
Exactly.
You mentioned mistakes there. Just before we wrap up, I'd love to sort of know if there's any kind of bloopers in your career, any mistakes you either made or bad things that kind of happened, and how you kind of swerved those or got around them at the time, but anything that really sort of set you back in your career, and anything that you could share with us around that.
Oh, crikey. Apart from doing a wedding way back in the day for a friend, and the little battery that was in my Canon F1 at the time decided to give up the ghost halfway through.
No.
That was a lesson. That was a lesson in. So I commandeered a fellow guest's camera and shot the whole wedding on this guy's camera. And this is using film. But no, I mean, I think you'll make many mistakes along the way, as anybody does in any career. The important thing is obviously to learn from them, accept that you don't know everything. It doesn't matter how long I've been shooting. I'm still learning, and everybody is, I think, in any role. And if so you're going to make mistakes. You're going to kick yourself. I've done a few of those things. I've done a few silly things. I've shot pictures without film in the camera. No. And you just like sit there going, what the hell? And you're like, oh, because I was concentrating on this. So everything's a lesson.
It's a learning curve, isn't it? Absolutely. Every day is a lesson. Like you said,
nobody's been hurt, and I've never messed a shoot up. So
that's good.
Absolutely.
Well, it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you. Thank you so much for being so generous with what you've shared, and sort of talking about, the highs and the lows, and how you've gone about finding clients. I'm hoping that will be fascinating for those listening. Cool. And you've mentioned some of the projects you worked on more recently. Did you want to mention anything else that you're specifically working on right now? Is there what are you shooting this week, for example?
This week, nothing, absolutely nothing. So that's the highs and lows of photography. Last week I was working all week. This week, that there is nothing on until something next week when I'm shooting some more video for a client. But
well, that's great. It means we can talk today then, because you've been available to speak to me. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely, that's why we're having this conversation. Yeah. But the recent shoot for the Sailor Society is great, because it's such an important thing. Seafarers, for us landlubbers, none of us think of what's going on the high seas when we're laid in our bed at night. These guys and the girls, they have the most dangerous job in the world, and they are some of the most lovely people who do such dangerous things, and it really is it is an honor to be able to get to tell their stories, really. And for me to meet them and hear their lives it puts your own life into perspective. And so again, I think that's another thing about working and doing the things you want to do. It's a great mirror to your own life, and especially with social media photography. With social documentary photography, it offers a mirror up to other people's lives. And this day and age, there's a lot of us that are everybody. It's a lot tougher world than we were used to maybe 10 years ago. So we're all having to adapt, and we're all having to find different ways of working, and so on and so forth. So it is always an honor to be able to step onto a ship and meet these guys and these girls that are doing this crazy job and documenting that and telling their story to the world. So that means the world to me, really. That passion is still there, and I hope that I never lose it. And the moment I lose it, I shall put down the Nikon and say, right, okay, that's it.
Yeah. No, well, it sounds like you're doing amazing work. So again, thank you so much for your time and for sharing so generously. And to anyone listening, do go and check out Andy's website. Andy, I believe that's andyscaysbrook.com.
It is indeed.
I'm about to say that. And obviously he's on social media as well. So do go and look up his work, everyone. And again, Andy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. So it was an absolute pleasure.